Why the DevRoom name is not the project name, who's basically behind it. It's the OpenSC, which is the open source smart card framework for Linux. Well, the idea is pretty simple because we do some little pieces of software that actually people don't care that much about, because once you know, if you use it, you don't care what's behind it, just use it. And there's not so much to say about development of OpenSC. It's pretty kind of complicated and pretty limited to the hardware devices. But the motivation for the day is that, you know, what good are the smart cards if you can't use them? So what we have collected is a bunch of talks for the day. I hope that some of the guys will stick around for longer so that we can, you know, discuss the problems that we should try to solve to make the smart cards more usable. So what we will cover is basically grouped into the four main themes. It's something that all the developers should actually care about most is library integration, because most of the time when you implement cryptography, you don't start to do like the basic RSA calculations. You just take some kind of a library. You want to use it. You want to get your SSL connections up, your signatures done, and you take a library that does it. So we're going to look into different libraries, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, there is nothing about OpenSSL, which is probably the most common, the most popular library. If you want to do like hash checksums, you don't usually think just link in OpenSSL and you get your SHA-1 hashes, but maybe it's not the best way to do. If you want to get secure connections between two nodes on the network, maybe you shouldn't use SSL. Maybe you should use SSH, for example. It's a cool protocol. I'm very, very excited to hear about it. So we're going to have like an overview of libSSH, which is an embeddable SSH library. We're going to have a real-life example of how one software component, CURL, or how you pronounce it, libcurl for me. How libcurl actually embeds a lot of, or includes a lot of SSL library supports and support for one SSH library, of course. We're going to have an introduction of quite unknown to me SSL library, CISSL, or yet another SSL library. Then we're going to have a few more technical talks about PEX 11, which again is something that the end users don't really see, but developers should be very aware of, because it's currently the de facto interface for cross-platform integration of hardware cryptography. We're going to see how to store trust, which is a very abused word, but yes, okay. Well, what trust means is very personal. But basically, when you open like a web browser and go to a website, you get an exception that this connection is not trusted and so on. What does it mean? How do you say that? Remember this decision. How to implement this in a, so to say, portable way. These are the guys from Step Walker, who's not here yet, from Cloud Keyring. There's Nikos, I don't know, Nikos, not here yet. We'll talk about access to package 11 modules, which is again a very cumbersome thing, because each application does it differently, and you can't like really reuse the different modules, and you can't experience the same user experience with different programs. So this guy is from New TLS. Then there are some topics that cover, like I'd like to say, the full cycle of using smart cards, which starts from generating keys to issuing certificates to actually using the people like to say that you use certificates online, but actually you expose the keys somehow, and how you can use the keys in real life applications. You're going to have talk about EGBCE, a very funny word. How do you pronounce it yourself?
EGBCA.
Yeah, EGBCA. Okay. I always misspell GBG. Okay, we're gonna have a very interesting talk about using electronic identities and certificates in a browser context, which is actually a very I would say an increasing problem because the amount of different software utilities and plugins and extensions and applets and whatnot that implement stuff like giving signatures in online environments, it needs to have some kind of standardization and some kind of a common objects in the future. And of course, you're going to have, as the bedroom theme is security/hardware cryptography, you're going to have other topics that maybe don't cover cryptography in that detail, but are interesting nevertheless. We're going to have talk about logging. Daniel? Not here. Okay. And about rootkits. Our rootkits can be made really simple, which is actually pretty nice because once you're rooted, you can't rely on any kind of hardware cryptography either. You're rooted. You're lost. So we have in total 11 talks or short presentations ranging from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. And in the end, an open discussion panel where basically anyone who is dealing with either integrating cryptography into their applications or just interested to know, or from usability point of view, want to know how to make things better in this field, is welcome to join in to discuss it and give some good examples or good ideas what free and open source software developers and library developers should do to actually make the life easier for everyone. And the discussion panel, so to say, continues in a nearby restaurant, which I know, which Aris kindly helped to organize. Well, if you were actually subscribed to the mailing list of the bedroom, then there should have been a link to the registration form for the dinner. So we still have a few more places. If you think you're really into like cryptographic software development or integration and want to have a nice fare and dinner, I think it was French or Italian? Italian food? Yeah.
Italian food in a French restaurant.
Okay, maybe. So we still have a few seats. I think it's the upper limit was 25 persons, and we have like 22 at the moment registered. So we're going to know during the day if somebody will still be missing in the evening, and so we're going to have a few more seats. So if you're interested, just let me or Aris know. Aris?
Yes.
Oh, back there. Or you can just,
Yes, I think there are one or two more seats available, so let you.
One or two lucky guys. So that's basically all from me. So let the fun begin. I will not disturb the audience because, as I said, most of the job to make using hardware cryptography a success is not done by OpenSU. It just does the boring drivers. You don't care about drivers. You care about going online and surfing whatever you do. So the application integrators are the ones who actually make it a success. First.
Are we allowed to move the tables? Because maybe we could take some in the back and
You can
put them all
try.
together.
You can try.
On the sides, so that
You can try.
oh, there are attached.
That's hardware security. So actually, I'd like to all the presenters who are here, because I don't know many myself as well. If I take the list, just to say a few words, what you do. Introduce yourself, and we can start from Jean-Michel.
Oh, hello.